Pat Parker grew up poor with her mother and father, Marie and Ernest Cooks. She left home at 17 years old to attend Los Angeles City College. She received her bachelor's from there, and she received a graduate degree from San Francisco State College. At age 18, she married Ed Bullins, a playwright. During their marriage, Parker said that her husband was physically violent. Their marriage ended after 4 years. Her second marriage, to Robert Parker, was brief. That's when she found that the idea of marriage wasn't working for her. After her first relationship with a woman, she knew that she was a lesbian. Pat Parker was an activist and was involved with the Black Panther movement. Pat traveled with groups like Varied Voices of Black Women and performed her poetry. She read her poetry in bookstores, coffee houses, and at feminist events. Much of her work was about powerful topics that affected her, like racism, lesbianism, and women's liberation. Parker passed away at the age of 45 from breast cancer. She was mourned by the lesbian feminist communities. There were several things named after her, including Pat Parker Place, a community center in Chicago.
Woman slaughter. It doesn't hurt as much now. The thought of you dead doesn't rip at my innards, leaves no holes to suck rage. Now thoughts of the 4 daughters of Buster Cooks, children, survivors of Texas hell, survivors of soul-searing poverty, survivors of small-town mentality, survivors, now 3, doesn't hurt as much now. 1. An act. I used to be fearful of phone calls in the night, never in the day. Death, like the vampire, fears the sun, never in the day.
Child of myself, this at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Genesis 2:32. From cavities of bone spun, from caverns of air, I, woman, bred of man. Taken from the womb of sleep, I, woman that comes before the first. To think second, to believe first, a mistake, erased by the motion of years. I, woman, I can no longer claim a mother of flesh, a father of marrow. I, woman, must be the child of myself. My lady ain't no lady. My lady ain't no lady. She doesn't flow into a room. She enters and her presence is felt. She doesn't sit small. She takes all her space. She doesn't partake of meals. She eats, replenishes herself. My lady ain't no lady. She has been known to speak in a loud voice, pick her nose, stumble on a sidewalk, swear at her cats, swear at me, scream obscenities at men, paint rooms, repair houses, tote garbage, play basketball, and numerous other things. Unladylike things. My lady is definitely no lady, which is fine with me, because I ain't no gentleman. For the white person who wants to be my friend. First thing you do is forget that I'm black. Second, you must never forget that I'm black. You should be able to dig Aretha, but don't play her every time I come over. And if you decide to play Beethoven, don't tell me his life story. They made us take music appreciation too. Eat soul food if you like it, but don't expect me to locate your restaurants or cook it for you. And if some black person insults you, mugs you, rapes your sister, rips your house, or is just being an ass, please do not apologize to me for wanting to cause them bodily harm. It makes me wonder if you're foolish. And even if you really believe blacks are better lovers than whites, don't tell me. I'll start thinking of charging stud fees. In other words, if you really want to be my friend, don't make a labor of it. I'm lazy, remember?
Where will you be when they come? They will not come a mob rolling through the streets, but quickly and quietly move into our homes to remove the evil, the queerness, the faggotry from their midst. They will not come clothed in brown and swastikas or bearing chests heavy with gleaming crosses. The time and need for such ruses are over. They will come in business suits to buy your homes and bring bodies to fill your jobs. They will come in robes to rehabilitate and white coats to subjugate. And where will you be when they come? Where will we all be when they come? And they will come. They will come because we are defined as opposite, perverse, and we are perverse. Every time we watched a queer hassled in the streets and said nothing, it was an act of perversion. Every time we lied about the boyfriend or girlfriend at coffee break, it was an act of perversion. Every time we heard, I don't mind gays, but why must they be blatant, and said nothing, it was an act of perversion. Every time we let a lesbian mother lose her child and did not fill the courtrooms, it was an act of perversion. Every time we let straights make out in our bars while we couldn't touch because of the laws, it was an act of perversion. Every time we put on the proper clothes to go to a family wedding and left our lovers at home, it was an act of perversion. Every time we heard who I go to bed with is my personal choice, it's personal, not political, and said nothing, it was an act of perversion. Every time we let straight relatives bury our dead and push our lovers away, it was an act of perversion. And they will come for the perverts. And it won't matter if you're homosexual, not a faggot, lesbian, not a dyke, gay, not queer. It won't matter if you own your own business, have a good job, or an SSI. It won't matter if you're black, Chicano, Native American, Asian, or white. It won't matter if you're from New York or Los Angeles, Galveston, or Sioux Falls. It won't matter if you're butch or femme, not into roles, monogamous, non-monogamous. It won't matter if you're Catholic, Baptist, atheist, Jewish, or MCC. They will come. They will come to the cities and to the land, to your front rooms and in your closets. They will come for the perverts. And where will you be when they come?
Pat Parker's poetry is not exactly the lyrical, beautiful poetry that people sometimes like to read, but it's real. Like, the things that she wrote about are but before my time, and they still reign true today. She wrote about topics like being a woman, lesbianism, racism, and all of which she wrote can still apply today. Racism may not be like it was then, but in her poem she made a point to say that it was the simple things that could seem racist. And that rings true. I go to a friend's house and they go from playing country music, and then as soon as I walk into playing rap, there's something there. And she talked about that. That applies to me. She talked about lesbianism. It's not always the sexy, perverse twosome that media tries to make it today. It's real. And that's what she tried to say, that her relationship as a lesbian woman is real. Her partner is real. And that rings true for women today. And as far as being a woman, she was saying in the Christian faith, we come from a man, but we still need to learn to stand by ourselves on our own. And I think that still means something today. I feel like women still need to know that yes, just like we compliment men and men compliment us, we can still stand alone. And I think that's a lot of what she wanted to say. I feel like as a poet, as an author, when your work can stand the test of time, when your work still means something decades later, you should never be forgotten. Pat Parker's work should never be forgotten.